training your triceps, you have a lot of options. One option is the high cable. You can do a variety of exercises here. Now remember one thing. The triceps are made up of 3 muscles. The long head is only going to be trained anytime there's some measure of shoulder flexion. So anything that's overhead, if you're lying and you bring your arms up here, if you're in a bent over position like doing kickback and you let the arm fall forward, that is going to target a lot of the long head. If we keep the elbow at the side, whether in this position or a standing position, now you're going to be targeting the lateral and the middle heads. But even those heads now can be trained differently. If you go to a reverse grip or anything that's really close grip, you're going to get more into the medial head, which is a smaller muscle that responds best to volume type training. The lateral head is a big muscle on the outside that responds best with heavier loads, and it is best trained with the hands in a pronate position or your hands, elbows flaring out just slightly. So if we come to the kind of the tricep push down position, this would be a good exercise for the lateral head, right? If I flared out my elbows a little bit into more of a diamond position, still going to get the lateral head, but now I'm opening up my elbows and the long head is getting a little bit of action at this point. If I choose to do reverse grip, this is going to be done with lighter weight and it's going to target more the medial head, which is probably only visible kind of down towards the lower part of your arm. The difference that you have is changes what we call the vector, which means instead of just pushing to this point, you're pulling down and then you're opening up. So you actually have a little bit more time under tension. So each rep is going to keep the tricep under tension for a little longer. So that's a good option to consider. We could then come into the overhead position. Now, a common mistake we see with a lot of people is because they want to go heavy, is they lean all the way forward and they kind of do their overhead tricep extensions this way. There's a problem with that is that you're not very stable. If your foot was to slip, you're going to fall. So, best way to do this exercise is to kind of get yourself into staggered position, stay tight through your core, and simply operate your movement this way. Now, because you've got a little bit of shoulder flexion, this is going to be a good exercise that also targets the long head. If we were doing lying tricep extensions, we want to basically take ourselves back into the position, take our dumbbells up like this, simply curl back, and from here, simply extend and flex at the elbows. This is sometimes called skull crushers, nose breakers. It's a very different exercise than what's called a pullover. A pullover is going to have a lot more pec and lat exercise, whereas this is going to be a lot more tricep exercise. Doing a seated tricep extension, just like with most machines, make sure that your elbows are aligned with the pivot point. So adjust the seat height until you feel yourself sitting in a comfortable position with your elbows lined in that kind of position right there, and then simply perform your repetitions. Kickbacks are another exercise for the triceps. So when you're performing this exercise, whether you're using a bench or just standing in a bit of a hinge position, the idea is to keep the elbow at the side of your arm and to simply extend the elbow and bring it in nice and easy and take it back out and repeat that motion. Things to pay attention to on this movement is regardless of how you're positioned, whether it's on a bench or just hinging in a kind of squat position, keep a neutral spine. Try and avoid that rounding or that arching of your spine, and make sure that the arm is not traveling. The arm stays at the side. If not, you're bringing in a little bit more action out of the lats. Dips are another exercise for the triceps. A popular way that people do dips is often to use a bench. Now, whether their feet are inclined or on the floor, they generally place their hands behind them and they'll be in a position such as this, dipping down. Now, while dips are very functional exercises, one of the concerns with the dip is that anytime you place your hands behind you, so let's think of the midline of the body, In this position, as the elbow is being driven up, as your body weight drops down, there's a lot of downward pressure on the shoulder capsule itself. And that could expose you to some potential injury. So an idea for doing dips is to try and avoid taking your hands back too far behind you. Try and keep the hands more in this position right here, because this will reduce the amount of stresses placed on your shoulder joint.